Alrighty. Well, you're muted, Kyle. Welcome to On the Ball Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen,
There we go.
obviously
I
today,
think I'm unmuted
there
now.
you go. I was
Yeah,
trying to
I don't know.
intro,
My,
but
my computer, my computer's going nuts. It's like playing the countdown again. I don't know what's going on. It's gonna be that kind of night, I guess. But like Brett said, welcome into the On the Ball podcast. We have another great episode ahead for you. We're gonna talk about some NBA free agency as well as the Team USA. So it's gonna be like basketball centric, but we're going to kind of I don't know. We'll probably be transitioning to more NFL starting next week, only if something big happens in the NBA. But yeah, so it's gonna be another NBA type episode. So Dylan, might be on a little bit later, but for right now, I got my guy Brett guarded three here with me. Brett, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to talk sports. I'm hyped. Let's do this.
Yeah, like I said, it's gonna be an interesting one. So yeah, I guess we might just go ahead and jump into these topics right away because I'm interested to, get Brett's take on some of these as well as my
All right.
own, of course. But let's see here. Is it up? There we go. So DeMar Derozan is now a member of the Sacramento Kings. We know that there were some rumors about, the Lakers or whether the Bulls might keep him. Would he go to the Clippers once Paul George went to the Sixers? But he ends up in Sacramento, which I know he's like a Southern California guy. So Sacramento is not necessarily Southern California, but he's still within the state of California now. So now that he's joined the Kings, and you can basically have your big three in Sacramento: De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, DeMar Derozan. How do you like the fit? Like, like where do you think this puts them in terms of the West? How do you think DeRozan will play off of Fox and Sabonis? And also, good big part of this as well is they didn't have to give up Keegan Murray. I think Keegan Murray was a guy that a lot of teams are trying to pursue if you're going to make any deals with the Kings. I think that was part of the Brandon Ingram stuff was like the Pelicans were going to try to get Keegan Murray. Well, the Kings get DeMar Derozan without giving up Keegan Murray. So, like, what do you think about the trade and the fit?
I think it's definitely an upgrade. DeMar DeRozan is a massive upgrade over Harrison Barnes, who was just downright unplayable last year for Sacramento. He was really bad. Watching the reactions from the trade, I think I saw more just people being happy that Harrison Barnes was gone rather than DeMar was coming. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, definitely an upgrade in that department. Offensively, I think it'll be a fine fit. And I think it's definitely an upgrade. It makes them better. But my question is, what are you going to do about the defensive end? Because a big three of Fox, DeRozan, and Sabonis, that's bottom five in the league. That's terrible. I think they're really banking on. I know some rumors that they're like, oh, they're going to start Malik Monk. I think that would be the wrong answer. I think you start Keon Ellis while bringing on Carter and hope his defense comes around. But I think a clutch time offense of Fox, Monk, DeRozan, Murray, and Sabonis would be really good. And don't get me wrong, that's a good lineup. But the issue is, when I run out of lineup and my best point of attack defender is De'Aaron Fox, that's not going to get you very far. So overall, they improved. I like it. I like them upgrading Barnes. I'm just unsure how they do in the playoffs because when it's time to get a stop, who's going to get it for them?
I think that's a valid point. Uh, I agree with you. I like the fit of DeRozan over Barnes, of course. Even though I feel like Barnes was a steady contributor, and when I was looking at the details of the trade and everything, like I forgot like Harrison Barnes is like 32 years old. Like if you seriously think about it, like you would think he was like 36, 37 as long as you've been kind of hearing about him. But the fact that he's only 32, for Chicago, no, he's going to San Antonio. Sorry, in the 3-team deal. like I feel like for that end of it, I kind of get it because it seemed like the biggest issue for San Antonio is just like veteran presence. So now in one offseason, you bring in Chris Paul, you bring in Harrison Barnes. They're kind of set there. We'll have to see how they use Barnes. But yeah, for the Kings, like you said, offensively, I understand it. You can uh, at times if Fox needs a breather in terms of offensively having to do a lot. You can give it over to DeMar Derozan, let him get into his mid-range game, and he can score for you that way. But like you said, defensively, DeMar DeRozan isn't exactly a great defender. De'Aaron Fox, I feel like De'Aaron Fox tries a little, but he's not a great defender. And even with Sabonis against certain matchups, Sabonis is a tough watch defensively necessarily against certain bigs. So what's going on, Jory? So it's going to be interesting to see how they make this work. But yeah, if you're just looking at it on the surface, Harrison Barnes going out, DeRozan coming in, yeah, it's a big win for the Kings. But now we're going to see like how everything fits together. So now looking at also the Kings' big three now, where do you put them in terms of the West?
In terms of, I think this is definitely a playoff team. I'm going to guess that they'll, let's see. I'm going to say this is probably a 5 seed. They're going to be a really good regular season team. I'm not doubting that. And I think where they end up this year, I think they get bounced in the second round. I think you're going to run into some tough playoff competition for them. And they're not going to be able to outscore everybody. But overall, I think this team, I'm going to guess they're a 5 seed that gets bounced in the second round this year.
I mean, that's not bad, for them. What was it? A couple of years ago, they were top half of the West. Last year took a big step back, especially once the Malik Monk injury happened. So if they can bounce back next year because of DeMar DeRozan, I think that's a win all around. Now, for me, I guess in terms of the West, I feel like I would kind of agree with you that they should probably be a top 6 team in the West. But, I mean, I don't know. The West is going to be kind of weird this year because I feel like the team that everybody keeps forgetting, Memphis, I don't know what to expect from Memphis next year. Like we've seen when Ja's there and everything's kind of clicking, they could be top 3 seed in the West. But since it's been like 2 years since Ja's really actually played meaningful basketball, could they be like a play-in team next year? I don't know. But I would expect the Kings to be top 6. And I do know that you brought up the idea of starting Malik Monk. I agree with you. I wouldn't do that because I think Malik Monk is so valuable as a 6th man. And not every 6th man could be a starter. Like some guys can kind of blend between both roles and perform well. I would worry that if you had Malik Monk starting, you would take some of his effectiveness away. Jory said that she likes the Kings over Golden State most definitely.
Yeah, I don't think Golden State will be much better than last year. I think they effectively replaced what Klay Thompson brought to the table. I just don't think it's really relevant at this point. I just don't think they have enough talent. It's funny you bring up the Grizzlies because I have a lot of faith in Memphis this year, and I think that they're going to bounce back in a big way. They're going to be the 4 seed. I think the first 3 seeds are locked up. I don't think anybody's touching Denver, OKC, or the Timberwolves. I think those are your top 3 seeds. Then I think it's going to be Memphis. And then that's when I think we get the Kings after that.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah, I was just saying, like, I don't know where to, like, slot Memphis in. Because, like you, I could see Memphis top 4 easily. I could see maybe, I don't know, transitioning back into regular job minutes and, there's no Steven Adams. There's no, well, I don't know, Brandon Clark. Like, has he gotten over that injury yet? They did draft Zach Edey, who, did see Summer League had a decent showing. I want to see, like, how much they play him. What's his role on the team? Because if he is effective and he becomes like a regular contributor at the 5 and you're moving Jaren Jackson to the 4, Okay. But if Jackson has to spend most of next year as a 5 again, I don't know. But
Yeah,
I think we all agree that the Kings are at least the top 16.
that's one of the things that Summer League, watching Zach Edey is one of the big reasons that made me think Memphis will be just fine. Because they really needed somebody to replace the Steven Adams role, right? And
Yeah.
watching Zach Edey, he's going to do that just fine. He was setting some really brutal screens to help create guards a lot of space. He showed he can rebound. He was protecting the rim. He was doing all the things that they were asking out of Steven Adams perfectly fine. So I think he'll be able to slide in and take over that role without an issue.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that before, that the fit for Edey was perfect, which I agreed with. I know I said like several times, him as the 9th pick kind of blew me away when it happened, but the situation he's going into does make sense. And I feel like the NFL analogy is like if there's a guy that you like, you just take them. You don't really worry about what the position that you're drafting them in is. But it seems like with the NBA, the thing is a little bit different because I think a lot of people look at the value of the pick at number 3. But yeah, if that's all they're asking them to do is just be Steven Adams, then yeah, I think Zach Edey would be perfectly fine next year. So, all right. Good little Kings talk to get us started. But now let's go ahead and talk about the Sixers, another team that formed a new version of their big 3. They tried Ben Simmons, They tried James Harden, Well, now you got Paul George, and Paul George revealed he's going to wear number 8 in honor of Kobe. So, also Joel Embiid said he likes the big 3, which, I mean, what else is he going to say? So looking at the Sixers big 3, I feel like it's kind of the same question. The fit of Paul George, I feel like we kind of talked about this a little bit last week, but I guess just to remind people, the fit with Paul George, do you like it? And where does this put the Sixers in terms of the East?
Paul George is the perfect fit on this basketball team. His skill set complements both Embiid and Maxey perfectly. He can play on the ball, off it, when he wants to be. If he doesn't have that high of an offensive load, he can still be an elite defender. He's shown that. He's really the perfect complement to these two. Where do they fit in the East? Your guess is as good as mine, right? And I'm not saying that because I can't predict how good these three. Theoretically, a number 2 seed and a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals or even the Finals isn't out of the question for this big 3. But then that's you banking on Joel Embiid and Paul George staying healthy. Yep. And that's why I said your guess is as good as mine. The healthy version of this team could very well make a run to the finals. Mm-hmm. The issue is I can't predict if we're going to have a healthy version of this team or not, and history tells us we're not. So I think a more realistic guess, give me the 76ers at the 3 seed and probably, I'll say, getting knocked out in the second round.
Oh, so Joel Embiid still can't get out of the second round. Okay.
I feel like they get past it if he's healthy. I just can't ever count on him being healthy.
Right, and that's fair. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. So I kind of agree with you. I feel like I'm a bigger Paul George guy than I think a lot of people. I think that they will be able to, do well with him. He's come along with some injuries of his own. Although last season, Paul George did play. What did he play? 70-something games last year. So he had a pretty healthy season. Obviously Embiid is going to be the major factor because even when he's had somewhat healthy regular seasons, he finds a way to kind of break down a little bit in the playoffs. And we know that he can still perform. Like against the Knicks last season, he had a pretty good series, but there were just key moments where the injury kind of hampered him. There was some key offensive rebounds that Hartenstein was able to get in that series because Embiid couldn't jump at all. So Hartenstein would just crash the board. So I guess if they're all healthy come playoff time, then yeah, the Sixers, you'd have to say, would have would have a pretty good chance of making a finals run. I just am not in necessarily the business of thinking a big man that's had lower leg injuries for all of his career is just all of a sudden going to have a fully healthy season. So I feel like the Sixers need to plan on Embiid missing 20 games, 25. And it's up to them to kind of plan around when those games are missed, obviously outside of injury, of course. But they're going to have to try to find a way to manage him in a way that he's in the best of health come the playoffs. And I know, like, in our group chat and stuff, Jory and others have talked about him staying on his feet. I do think that is a big issue with Embiid. Like, he is a big man, and him constantly going down to the floor, it just seems like it takes a toll on his body as the season goes along. So I don't know if that means he stays on the perimeter a little bit more, which I know Sixers fans are going to hate, but it's almost like when he's on the perimeter, that's like the way he protects himself from throwing himself down on the ground. So I don't know what they're going to do. I agree. I mean, I feel like they're probably going to be top 4 seed anyway, but Paul George could make them a 2 seed. I don't know. I'm like you. I don't know how to predict the Sixers in any way. I think Sixers fans are okay with this big 3. I don't know. My biggest thing is, as long as Paul George and Embiid don't stunt Maxi's growth, I think they're fine. I don't think they would, because I don't think Paul George is like that type of player. But that was like my only worry when I first heard this move, was like, so Paul George's touches cut into Maxi, then I don't know if that's the best case scenario necessarily.
I think if anything, they should probably take a more, and it might sound crazy at first, but they should probably take some more touches away from Embiid. And it's not because Embiid isn't, is a declining scorer or something, but it really comes down to, you want to lessen the offensive load on Embiid to try to keep him healthy throughout the entire run, so that when you need him to take over a game and you need him to shoot the ball 25, 30 times in the playoffs, he's there to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, just if you're going to take touches away from anyone, take some touches from Embiid in the regular season. It sounds crazy, probably to some, but I think that's really the way to go.
I think that's fair. Because Paul George is a capable scorer, and we've already seen what Maxi can do. Maxi, the scary thing might be Maxi could take his game up to another level next season. And I don't know, I've kind of been going back and forth in my mind with, should they just make Maxi the number 1 option and kind of run a lot of their offense through them and have George and Embiid playing off of them? Or do they kind of still do what they do and have Embiid as the focal with, Maxi and George kind of spelling him from time to time when he's on the court? I don't know. What's going on, Key?
I think the answer to that really
is Key. Key is a Sixers fan. Key, we're talking about the Sixers big 3, the fit, and kind of where do they stack in terms of the East.
I think the answer to that is, you're just I'll say you just run the offense more through PG and Maxi, and use Joel Embiid as more like a handoff hub. Just have him just do handoffs and into screens to get Tyrese going downhill, and you can do the same for PG, or they can pull up. I think that's really the easy way to go with Joel Embiid. Just use him as more of a facilitator than a scorer until you get to the playoffs, and then at that point, if you need him to switch gears, he's capable.
He said, I like the Martin pickup.
The Celtics killer, Cody Martin.
Cody Martin. Look, I get it. So I think Cody Martin probably will be better in Philly than Miami. I feel like the whole Miami dynamic of Cody Martin, it kind of ran its course. He, the year that they knocked the Celtics out in the conference finals, he had a great series. This past playoff run, he wasn't all that good. So I think a change of scenery will be good for him. He's, He's a good perimeter guy. Oh, Caleb Martin. What do we say? We
Yeah,
say Cody
Caleb.
Martin? Or
Yeah, no, that's my bad.
I
I
say Cody
threw the wrong name out there. Too many Martins in the
Yes.
league.
Yeah, we gotta get it right. Caleb Martin. Yeah, I feel like that's a good pickup. Yeah, because his role would probably be a little bit more of a maybe defensive and just hit an open three from time to time, and you're good. I think in Miami he was like dependent as like a number 2 option at times, and it's like that's not what he is. So I get that from you, Key.
It's all right though. 37-year-old Jimmy Butler's going to come back and bring Miami back to the promised land with or without Caleb, right?
I am so done
culture.
with here. I'm so done with it. I mean, we'll talk about that a little later because I'm gonna save my Heat talk for then. Heat culture, I hate it. All right, next topic: the Nuggets. So, in recent off seasons, because that's why I put this picture up, they lost KCP and Bruce Brown, and we're kind of looking around the league. I mean, just to bring my Celtics into it, they spent crazy money to keep everybody together. Will the Nuggets regret not following kind of the same plan and giving KCP what he needed to stay, Bruce Brown what he needed to stay, and try to keep this group together as long as they could? Because since now that they've been broken up, they won the finals, but then this past season you could see something was missing from the team. They get to the playoffs, they run up against energized Minnesota squad, and the Nuggets bow out. So do you think that they will regret not signing KCP and Bruce Brown when they could have?
I mean, I think I definitely miss them throughout the season, but obviously now we're starting to get into this new era of basketball with this first and second apron.
Yeah.
So I understand the logic in not doing it, because now you don't want to fully you want to try to avoid restricting yourself in that second apron as much as you can, and it's kind of exactly what happens if you keep KCP and Bruce Brown. You're just like stuck with that exact team. So overall, I think they'll miss him. I do have faith in Christian Braun, and I think he'll step up and have a great year. I do like the Nuggets' overall moves around the edges. The Dario Saric signing when he's not getting knocked out by Zubac was a good pickup, and Deron Holmes, I'm still mad at them for stealing him from the Bucks. But overall, I do like the other moves they made. But yeah, they absolutely will miss KCP.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love that pickup for Orlando. He's a type of guy that they definitely need in that locker room and on the court. So I do think with the NBA implementing these restrictive aprons, I see on one hand like they're trying to create parity. You don't want necessarily guys flocking to the same teams and everything like that. You want to kind of increase player movement on a wide scale basis. But I do think that teams like Denver are the unnecessary casualty of the second apron, because if you were Denver, you were looking at it as, okay, so if we spend to keep everybody, we're in the second apron. Is there any chance that us keeping KCP and Bruce Brown delivers us another title with a guarantee? You can't guarantee that. So they probably made the decision that, okay, we move on from Bruce Brown. We're going to continue to develop Christian Brown. KCP moves on. We'll kind of see who fills out his role this year and kind of keep it moving that way. Like I said, the Celtics have gone the complete opposite way. Like, if you wanted a new deal in Boston, you got one this year, because they were just looking at it as our core are still pretty young. So if we keep them together, there's not really any risk of overpaying maybe a guy at the end of his rope just to keep him. So there's going to be two different philosophies that teams are going to have to look at with the second apron staring them in the face and how they approach it. So I get what Denver is doing. But yeah, it's just hard to look at this past season and not think that these role players that they've missed might have been a bigger deal than in most other cities, especially when your offense is being run through your big man who operates out of the post, faces up and likes to spray the ball around the perimeter. If you start taking some of those guys away from him, it kind of affects Jokic's efficiency in the offense as well. So that's why I'm like, we're out to see next year how they kind of piece it all together. I mean, Aaron Gordon's got to step up, of course, and Jamal Murray. Like, we know what to expect from Jamal Murray. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Denver, but you got Jokic. He seems like a guy who can kind of he can elevate the play of role players. So, like you said, Holmes, who they just brought in, he may turn into a key player next year just because he's playing with Jokic. And this conversation may be moot at that point. There may be nothing wrong with Denver.
Jokic on the floor just guarantees you like a top 5, top 7 offense. He proved that already in his first MVP year when you gave him a lineup with like Facu Campazzo, Monty Morris. Like, his second leading scorer was Will Barton, who went the next year and shot under 40% from the field with the Wizards. Like, he was bad. And that was still somehow good enough for the 7th best offense in the league. So I think the big question is trying to replace these veterans with some of these young guys, though, is things change when you hit the postseason. Like, that wide open shot, the hoop might look a little smaller. The nerves might get to you. So I think Christian Braun, he's had that experience, so he'll be fine. But now looking at like Holmes, that's the one name I'm looking at because I think he's going to make a great impact. But we'll see how he does when he gets to the playoffs because the game seems to speed up a lot for young players when we get to that part of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and another name to throw out there, Jeff Green. I don't want to disrespect Jeff Green. Uncle Jeff, been around for a while. Denver lost him as well. So it's been like 3 key guys like in succession that they've lost that, you're kind of looking at how will Denver shape things in the future. But I mean, like I said, you got Jokic, he can kind of make it work with anybody.
Jeff Green, good for one postseason highlight every year. Some poor unsuspecting sucker every year gets one-handed jammed on by Jeff Green.
He has made an incredible career out of that. Jeff Green. I remember when the Celtics took him. I was kind of encouraged by him. Then he was like part of the Ray Allen deal, and I was like, hey, you brought us Ray Allen. Then he like came back and then it was gone again. But I definitely respect how long Jeff Green has been around the league, especially what do you have like a heart condition early on in his career, and he's battled past that and is still making money in the league. I respect it. All right. All right, so here's where we're going to talk about, because basically free agency, for the most part, is pretty much done. All the names that are going to be moved have been moved. I mean, there might be a surprise move that happens next week or so. Who knows? But just looking at free agency as a whole, which team would you say maybe missed an opportunity? Maybe they didn't make enough moves for you. They may not have made any move, and you're kind of wondering why not. So who's a team that missed out on free agency that you feel like will really regret it once the season starts?
I kind of a unique answer to this one. I think the team who messed up in free agency, let me go with the Charlotte Hornets. I think that this was the year for them to do a cultural reset to kind of try to change the culture of things and try to show, hey, things that we happened in the past aren't going to fly. Half of our players getting arrested every other day. Just things like that. We're done. It's not going to fly. Like, you have a great chance for a cultural reset, then you re-signed Miles Bridges to 3 years, $75 million. What in the world are you doing? It's not like Miles Bridges was great last year. People go, well, he looked great. Yeah, when you're playing with a rookie and whatever remains of Gordon Hayward were sitting over there in Charlotte, of course you're going to look much better than you actually are. So they overpaid Miles Bridges, but more damaging than that is the fact that they really had a real chance to reset the culture and try to forge a new path for the Charlotte Hornets. And the Charlotte Hornets just decided, nah, we want to be the Jailblazers 2.0. So I'm disappointed in Charlotte.
That's not a bad one because yeah, when you look at Charlotte, Charlotte's a team that's just kind of just been getting by in irrelevancy. It seems like they're just happy being there. Hey, we have a team in Charlotte. Yay. And it's like, do you actually want to perform? Do you want to make a playoff? Do you want to even make a play-in? Like, do you want to try it all? We have LaMelo Ball. Okay. Like, what else you got? We have Brandon Miller. Okay. Where's LaMelo Ball? Oh, he's hurt right now, but don't worry about it. So it's like, I don't know what they're doing. I guess we can't blame Michael Jordan anymore because he sold his stake. He's out. Like this is somebody else now.
It just sets
That's
a
that's a
terrible
good one.
precedent to guys like Brandon Miller because now it looks like the Brandon Miller, I can do whatever I want and they're not going to do anything. Like, I can
Yeah,
go beat up whoever I want, do whatever I want. Why aren't they going to do nothing? This dude just brutally beat his wife a year ago and they just gave him a massive extension. I can do whatever I want. That's the message they just sent to all of the young guys. Do whatever you want. As long as you're somewhat productive on the basketball court, you still have a job here. We'll still pay
yeah,
you.
yeah. And they just gave the job to Charles Lee. So it's like, hey, Charles, go ahead and make Miles Bridges work. Like Charles Lee might have been like, I wasn't taking this job for Miles Bridges. I thought he was going to be gone. I mean, obviously, I would think that if they re-sign him, Charles Lee has a plan for him. Yeah, it's just a bad look for the city because I'm sure Miles Bridges being on the team probably alienated some of the fan base, and some of those fans are probably like, "Oh, he's a free agent. He's going to be gone." And they probably looked at the notification like, "Oh, he re-signed in Charlotte." They're probably like, "For what? Like, what are we doing?" Like you said, not like Miles Bridges is taking them anywhere. Like, what does Miles Bridges on the team do for you next year? Well, maybe your ceiling is the 10th seed. Like, okay, that's fun. So yeah, I see. Yeah, I'm there with you. Charlotte is. I don't even know what to make of Charlotte anymore. I feel like they're making that same mistake. Maybe the Bulls make with Lonzo Ball. They're just waiting for LaMelo to become, I don't know, some superstar, and I guess drag them to the promised land. Yeah, I don't think he has that in him.
And LaMelo, like, has at least star potential, right? I think LaMelo has
I agree
potential
with
to
that.
be as good, if not like better than Tyrese Halliburton. When he plays healthy, he's just as good, if not better than Halliburton. But that's kind of the issue. For one, he's not healthy, and two,
Mm-hmm.
do you think a part of that is maybe, just maybe, you're when he does come back, you're putting the entire load of the offense on him? Like maybe try to
True.
get him a second option. Now maybe Brandon Miller, coming into year two helps that out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a big thing they need to do is if he doesn't develop into that, they need to go out and get a secondary playmaker, somebody that can come in and be like, LaMelo, you don't have to do everything anymore. And maybe
Yeah.
that'll be a big key taking him off the ball to prolonging his availability.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Uh, I wonder if anybody in Charlotte has caught on with that. Like I said, Charles Lee's gonna have a shot at it. Maybe he implements something where yes, Lamelo isn't completely dominating the ball every possession while not caring about defense. So he'll take a three on one end and then allow his guy to just blow by him and get into the paint, and then put in their defense at a in a precarious situation. I'm interested to see what happens in Charlotte only because, like I said, I mean, Charles Lee from the Lux staff. He was with the Celtics this past season. Like, I want him to do well. Charlotte's probably not the best job for your first job, but hey, if he has them playing even harder next year, yeah, give that man an extension. my team I was going to bring up, you teased it a little earlier. What is Miami doing? I thought at the end of last season, the way like Pat Riley seemed like he was kind of done with this team, I thought they're going to maybe blow it up. But he told like Jimmy Butler to kind of like shut up. I was like, I laughed because like that's what I want to tell Jimmy Butler to do too. But I felt like that was going to be the end of Jimmy Butler in Miami. Seems like he's coming back. You have Tyler Hero, who all of last offseason was, well, Hero's going to deliver us Dame Lillard. Thankfully, the Blazers hung up on that call because that would have been a terrible move. But it's like now, what's Hero's confidence in Miami? And they allow Caleb Martin to go to Philly, so it's another offseason that they've lost a key rotation piece. They've already lost, Max Strus and guys like that. So now it's almost like Adebayo, they gave the extension, which I'm fine with. Like Adebayo is a good player. But I don't see any reason for any Heat fans to think like this is going to be a great season down in Miami. They're not better than Orlando. I think Orlando's going to win that division probably for the next 3 years. I mean, yes, the Hawks, good luck predicting what the Hawks are doing. And then you got the Wizards. They're the Wizards. That's probably as much as we need to talk about them. But yeah, I just don't know the direction of Miami. Like, so you're expecting a full season with Terry Rozier? That's going to do something. And I like Terry Rozier, but I think in some people's minds, Terry Rozier is some great player that was just stuck in a bad situation in Charlotte. My memory of Terry Rozier was with the Celtics. I think the last playoff before he moved on, when he was like 0 for 14 from the field and couldn't buy a bucket. It just shot the Celtics out of it might have been Game 7 against the Bucks, I think. Like, that's the Terry Rozier that I know come playoff time. I just don't understand the plan with the Heat. Maybe that's the Celtics, fan in me, right? Maybe because it's Miami, I'm just looking at it a certain way. But do you agree with me? Like, do you see an issue with kind of how the road Miami's going down right now?
They're going right down the path of irrelevancy.
Exactly.
Like, am I supposed to have any hope that Miami's going to do anything? Like, last year I gave them benefit of the doubt because obviously, like, every time I counted them out, they would all of a sudden make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But it really does feel like their luck is starting to run out. And, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Khalil Ware, who's looked awesome in Summer League, comes in and makes a big impact. But I just don't see a guy that's going to come in for Miami and just take him back to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think a healthy Jimmy, as much as he's convinced that he does, I don't think he takes him over the top teams in the East again. Yeah. I don't think that's happening. And they lost a big thing with their miracle runs is just hot three-point shooting. And that's not something you can bank on happening every single time.
Yeah.
Like, people talk about Jimmy single-handedly beating Milwaukee in 2023. Yeah, the Miami Heat also shot 45% on tightly contested threes. Can you really replicate that? Like, and just straight incompetence from the Knicks. Julius Randle will take care of taking them out of games. And overall, I just don't see the roadmap to Miami being successful for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, they did bring back Haywood Highsmith, so if that moves the needle for you, Miami, more power to you. Dylan brings up a good point as well. I feel like early in the offseason, we learned Jimmy Butler is not signing an extension. So I thought with that coming out, with the way Pat Riley kind of seemed frustrated with this group by the end of their playoff run, I thought Jimmy was going to be gone. Everybody looked at the Butler Sixers reunion as like a rumor that was out there. But now it's almost like the Heat are locked in to a roster that wasn't all that good this past year. And I get it. Butler was hurt in the regular season and didn't play at all in the playoffs, really. but that team wasn't going to do anything against the Celtics anyway. So I don't know. Like Pat Riley, I respect you. I see what you've done with Miami. You gotta kind of tear it down a little. I know it's not Heat culture, but this group's kind of gone as far as they're gonna go.
I would honestly say even if Jimmy, I would say Jimmy playing if he starts out hot next year, maybe considering moving him at the deadline.
Yeah.
Like try to get his value as high as it can. If you want to sign that extension, I wouldn't sit there, bending over backwards to try to get him to sign one. At the end of the day, Jimmy Buckets is a talented player, but Jimmy's also 35 years old. Or like 34. Like how much longer do you think he's going to play at a possibly all NBA level? I don't think there's many more years of that left in the tank.
Jimmy could get traded during the deadline. This upcoming season, if that at all is possible, seems very underachieving. Golden State. Could you imagine the practices with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler? I don't think Steve Kerr wants that headache. Plus, apparently, Golden State's trying to get Markkanen. I don't know if they'll be able to make that happen because knowing Danny Ainge, he's probably not going to move Markkanen. You're going to have to way overpay in terms of trade capital to get Markkanen out of Utah. I don't know if Golden State can afford that right now.
I would say I think a team like the Thunder would be interesting to overpay for Markkanen because they got enough picks to do it. Yeah. Or maybe even the Spurs would be a fun team to overpay for Markkanen a bit. I think the thing with if I were the Spurs though, if I'm going to overpay for Markkanen, I'm going to see if I can get him without my 2025 pick involved. Because apparently this is an insanely deep draft coming up. And I think if you have a later round pick, I think there's some great role players to be had. So free agent in 2025, yeah.
All right. A year older Jimmy entering free agency, I guess. I wonder where in his mind his dream place is to land in 2025. He wants to be in New York. Steve A will party knowing that they got Jimmy Butler, and then everybody have to remind him, yeah, you'll still just end up where you're going to end up anyway. I get it. Jimmy Butler is, he's a good interview. He's got the whole coffee thing that was like a big storyline in the bubble and everything.
Popular on Picture Day.
I just don't get the fascination with him.
Like prime Jimmy Butler, like even these past few years, great, but 2024 injury prone Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
I'm not willing to take a risk of max on Jimmy Butler in the year 2025. So somebody else can have him.
As Dylan put it, seems like he'd hate New York. I don't know. That's interesting. I feel like he would like the atmosphere of the Garden. He probably would like the exposure of, ESPN and everything, loving New York. Living in New York? Yeah, he might, because he's like a country guy. Even though he's in Miami, but I don't know. All right, so next free agent question. Is there a player that signed somewhere, or I guess like a surprise to you, whether it was a place that they signed or the fact that they weren't moved, I guess outside of Jimmy Butler, because we just spent a bunch of time talking about Jimmy Butler. Like, what was there a player that made a move or didn't that surprised you?
My biggest surprise is actually a player that went to a non-playoff team. I'm talking about Jonas Valanciunas to the Wizards. That completely caught me off guard. 10 years, $30 million. I was like, 3 years, $30 million. I was like, what? What's Jonas doing there? That caught me off guard. I get wanting a veteran presence. I think Jonas will do perfectly fine there. The defense in Washington's going to be abysmal, but what's new. I think he can teach Saris, a thing or two offensively. So overall, actually, it caught me off guard, but I think it's actually a good signing because I think he can really help Sar's development on the offensive end. Overall, they're somewhere like there's some marginal moves that caught me off guard. Like when I opened my phone and saw that Max Christie got a 4-year, $32 million contract, and I'm just like, what did he do? Like Mo said, when we talked about this on And One, like what did he do? How did he get this contract? Like they're really banking on him being serviceable, but overall, if I had to say something, give me Jonas to the Wizards.
75% of free agency is timing. Okay, for Max Christie, perfect timing. Mo said Wizards back in the lottery. Yeah. Wizards are like the Hornets. They're just kind of fine being. They're just fine being whatever. Jordan Poole get his shots up. He'll do all his stuff, and yeah, they're not going to win a lot. I think to maybe be a homer with this one, I was a bit surprised at kind of like Derek White's contract, because I look at what the Knicks gave OG Anunoby, and I understand like time of service and everything. Like I guess the options were a little bit different, but I think Anunoby's getting like it was like $100 million more than Derek White. And if I'm honest with you, I would rather have Derek White than OG Anunoby. Not taking anything away from OG Anunoby because he's a really good two-way player. But I just feel like Derek White's a better version, maybe a bit smaller than OG Anunoby. And the fact that he signed for that much, I just felt like that was – I didn't think he was actually going to go anywhere. But just looking at some of the money that was thrown out to certain players, like Patrick Williams, which I guess is another one that kind of surprised me, the fact that he got like $90 million. It wasn't just this past year where Bulls fans were like, this dude's a bust, and they rewarded him. For what reason? Yeah, like Mo said, like just seeing what Derek White signed for, I think that is an absolute steal. It just shows, well, one, I guess White came into his own in Boston and probably didn't want to leave. And the fact that Brad Stevens is just continuing to knock it out of the park in terms of locking everybody up in Boston. So that was one that did surprise me a little bit. Like I said, I didn't think he was going to go anywhere, but the fact that he got that amount and seeing other guys what they got was a little surprising.
Oh yeah, I forgot quickly got maxed out. That threw me for a loop.
Yeah. Just the kind of money I get it. The money's flowing in the NBA. Teams got to spend it on somebody. But some of these guys with these contracts is just crazy.
Cade got paid today $224 million. Could be up to $270 million if he hits incentives, although he's not going to. So let's just say $224.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be clear, I like Cade Cunningham. I just don't think he's making an All-NBA team.
Right.
So that's why I say he's not going to. I believe in Cade. I just don't believe in him being one of the 15 best players in the NBA. Believe in him.
Yeah, that's a fair point because, like you said, he's a talented offensive player. But like looking at guards in the East, it's how do you see him getting an All-NBA nod? I mean, I guess you're looking at the West as well, but even making an All-Star team. He probably would get one in a year where, a couple of the top guys might be hurt or pull out. But I don't even think he's like an all-star level guard necessarily. And like I said, he's getting big time money. And that's what the past couple of years, he's had injury issues. But then again, Detroit's got money. They got to spend it somewhere. So if they didn't spend it on Cade, where would they put that money? I'm trying to think if there's some other moves.
No, that's fair. Like I said, the Pistons signed Fred Vinson this offseason, the shooting coach of the Pelicans. He helped Herb Jones and guys like that fix their jumper.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they're banking on him too. That really might be the biggest signing of the offseason for Detroit, because if he can come in and get half these guys shooting even average from three, the Detroit Pistons would be such a better basketball team, even if they got like just a tad more spacing. So that is one, I guess, free agency move that I loved from Detroit. It's bringing in Fred Vincent, even though it's not technically a player, because if you can help him like he helped her improve his shot, then even just by bringing back these young guys and working with him, Detroit should be a much better basketball team just off improved shooting alone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a fair point. I mean, I saw Detroit play mainly when they played the Celtics, and yeah, that's a big thing with them. It was perimeter shooting, not one of their strong suits. Doesn't help when Monty Williams is running Killian Hayes out there for way too many minutes. That guy's never going to help your perimeter play.
If anybody says that Monty Williams didn't deserve to get fired, they didn't watch Monty Williams coach the Detroit Pistons last year.
Yeah.
Did the
I did
roster
not get his
construction
obsession.
bad? Yeah, was the construction bad? Yes. Did Monty Williams also try to speed run to get himself fired by making the absolute worst roster move possible? Also, yes. I'm watching him throw in full bench lineups. I'm watching him play Isaiah Livers, who's like a league worst, like -19 every time he touched the floor. He's playing with Killian Hayes, who's also a league worst negative.
Yeah.
Like I said, if anybody out there really thinks that Monty Williams did not deserve to get fired, you did not watch Pistons basketball. That man was trying his hardest to get paid for sitting at home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to argue for Monty after that. All right, another question. Who do you have as the biggest loser of free agency?
The biggest loser, I feel like the answer is the Clippers. There's so many answers you can go with here, but they lost Paul George for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And their only comeback and their big replacement for him is Nick Batum, who's great and he can, make improvements in some departments, but he can't replace Paul George's scoring. And if they signed Kevin Porter from Greece, which once again, I don't like that signing for off the court reasons, but on the court as well. Kevin Porter is an inefficient shot chucker. He's not replacing anything that Paul George is doing. He's not giving you anything on defense. Overall, it pretty much feels like they lost Paul George, and the only relevant talent they brought back to try to replace him is Nick Batum, which, as great as Batum is, that is still a massive talent gap between the two. So overall, I hate what the Clippers did this offseason, and I think they're going to be much worse.
I actually agree with you. That was going to be my answer too. Because, yeah, you lose Paul George, you re-sign James Harden. Harden at this point in his career does absolutely nothing for me. You have Kawhi Leonard over large sections of the NBA season this year was actually healthy. And then when you needed him, he was injured. So even when Kawhi plays enough in the regular season, he's still not there for the postseason. Well, he was there but he was it still was an uneven season from him. They're moving into their own building. They're trying to create their own brand outside from the Lakers. Love that. But the fact that this is the team that they're going to break ground on that new stadium and open it up, so see high tech and everything for this group, that's a big L. If I'm a Clippers fan, what's drawing me to those games now? See how long before James Harden phones it in and forces his way out?
Everybody's coming in for the Nick Batum legacy games.
Yeah. There's a good chance Harden might, come back training camp, rocking the fat suit, trying to get out sooner than the trade deadline. I just don't know what you're going to be optimistic about with the Clippers when, Paul George was probably out of the three that they had. If you want to argue, maybe the more talented of the three. But if you want to say Kawhi, if this offseason you're looking at Harden and Paul George, possibly one of them moving, if not both, why Paul George is the guy that moved on and you re-signed James Harden, I don't get it. And I think Paul George came out and said like he wanted to be in LA, but felt that the deal that was offered to him was disrespectful. And I feel like we knew from the insiders that I think the Clippers were offering 3 years, Paul George wanted 4, and that's where it broke down. But they went to Harden, they offered Harden 2 years. Of course, Harden's going to take that. Harden will take any contract you slide across him at this point. He's just lucky to still be in the league with, whatever. But yeah, I have to agree. I don't understand what the Clippers are doing. And as Dylan says, watch, they'll cave in and go get Zach LaVine, which that would kind of be fitting for LaVine to join the Clippers. Oh, that would have to mean that the Bulls are completely tearing everything down, which hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, so with the Paul George, from what he said himself on his podcast, they just disrespected him in the contract negotiations. He said their first offer to him was 2 years, $60 million. The Clippers knew that was never going to be enough to get that done. Yeah. Then it was 3 years, 150, but then he wanted the 4 years, 212. And then he wanted 4 years, 212 with the no trade clause, and then they wouldn't do the no trade clause, and at that point, he's like, all right, well, I'm out.
Yeah.
So this one's kind of on the Clippers because they have to have known that there's no way that he would accept 2 years, $30 million. Or sorry, $60 million for $30 million a year. And even like 3 years, 150, like the man wants his full 4-year max. Like you knew you were going to have to get close to that to keep him, and you chose to go way below that twice. And he still gave you a third chance, and you just didn't do it. So overall, the Clippers fans, if they're upset with their team, they can blame management for this one because they fumbled the bag on this one really badly.
Yeah. And, I guess Clippers fans probably had their hopes up when the rumor was they were going to try to get DeMar Derozan. But like we said earlier, that didn't happen because he's now in Sacramento. So now if you're going to tell them we're going to try to get Zach LaVine, that's not going to do anything either because Zach LaVine's another guy coming off of an injury-plagued season to go along with Kawhi Leonard coming off injury-plagued seasons and James Harden, who at times plays like he's injured. So, I mean, I just don't know what the Clippers have going on. Like, I like Ballmer as an owner. I mean, sometimes he seems like he kind of needs to chill a little bit, but I love his energy. I feel like if the Clippers ever won a title, I feel like Ballmer would celebrate it in the craziest way possible. But I just don't see how this past offseason doesn't make you think that they're now further away from that than they were last year. I did say which team lost the free agency period. Is there another team that you felt like was a big loser? I know you said there's several teams you could choose from. We both decided on the Clippers, but is there like another one that you have?
It's funny because I want to say the Phoenix Suns just because they're the Phoenix Suns, but they're the big losers because they have Bradley Beal still on their contract and they can't move him. It's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
You
did bring up no trade clauses, and it's crazy that there's only 2 in the league. One's LeBron and one is Bradley Beal. That's crazy.
No,
go ahead.
Looking around the league, there's a few like the Bulls. Finally, they traded DeMar, but then they extended Patrick Williams, and they're not trading Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
But I think the LaVine one, I can't really blame them because it sounds like they'll have to attach picks to move from LaVine. So it's not that they can't. It's not that they don't want to. It just sounds like they can't right now. Um, the the Hawks are a weird one because obviously they just won
Yep.
the lottery, pick number one, but then they move on from DeJounte Murray, but refuse to move on from Clint Capella, even though he should have been moved like 2 years ago. To me, that's
Mm-hmm.
another. To me, that's just a loser like situation in general. I think Clinton Capella still has value in this league, but it's clear as day that the Hawks want to replace him with a Conwu. But the
Mm-hmm.
Hawks also just refuse to pull the trigger on trading Clint Capella. So I think the Hawks are just kind of losers just because they're in purgatory. So I think
Yep.
I'll go with the Atlanta Hawks for at least the free agency portion because I feel like they're just not doing enough.
Yeah. And then on top of that, they don't have any picks because all those picks are gone in the initial Murray trade to get him to Atlanta. So yeah, it's definitely a weird situation. Like if they're gonna keep Trey Young and all these guys next year, they better have some type of success because if they're gonna be it's gonna be another bad year with no postseason. Hawks fans can't sit there and look like, oh, well, great 2025 draft. We're gonna have these great picks to use. No, you don't. They're all gone. So yeah, they might be the most purgatory team than anybody in the NBA. Because one thing if you're bad, but if you have picks to look forward to, there's at least a silver lining there. But you're bad, paying a star in this league crazy amounts of money with no picks. It does definitely seem like a dim future for Atlanta. You know, Dylan, I know you're in the chat. Sorry to talk about the Hawks. I mean, Atlanta's my second city, so yeah, I would like to see them start making smart moves, but it's just like I don't know when that's going to happen. There was an extra topic I had, which doesn't necessarily deal with free agency, but then it kind of does. So last season, we saw Phoenix go down the road of a big three. Philly, big three. I guess Sacramento, big three. Even though we kind of were being told by the NBA and all these other teams that the big three era was over with. So can these teams still win in seemingly the big two era with a lot of depth around them as big threes? Do you think it can still work in today's NBA?
Absolutely, it could still work. I think the issue is we're looking at teams just the teams that are trying to put together big threes are very short sighted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Spurs, like let's talk about the Suns again. They get Kevin Durant, which I thought was awesome. Like
Yeah.
whatever, you lost Mikal Bridges, that's big, but I would also trade Mikal Bridges if it meant getting Kevin Durant. But then they get Bradley Beal, and that didn't make sense from the jump because on paper it looks really pretty. He's scoring 30 points a game. Well, like, did you think to look at how good he does defensively?
Yeah.
How his other fats? How does he impact the game other than scoring the ball? Because in the 11 years or so that he was with the Wizards, they never trusted him to play point or really put the ball in his hands a lot, except if he was going to attack or score. I think that says something about his playmaking ability overall, and that's something you look for in a third option.
Mm-hmm.
Secondary playmaking and defense. So, and I think we're going to run into the same thing here with the Kings. The offense is going to be much better, but did you stop to think how are you going to make this work defensively? It's not a big deal. You're putting together a big three, but you got to put together a big three that fits together and that works. And that's something that these last couple teams that tried to do it just didn't. They didn't take into account fit, and that's what's come back to bite them.
Yeah. I definitely agree. You know, like the big three era, obviously if you looked at Miami, Bosh, Wade, and then LeBron, yeah, every team would love to put together a big three like that. Not many could. And now with Phoenix's big three they put together, like you said, everybody thought it was going to be some steamroll engine in Phoenix going through the West, and we learned very quickly that forcing Bradley Beal to be your point guard isn't going to work. They tried Booker as a point, and I think Booker can do it from time to time, but you don't want Booker just being slotted as your point guard going in night in and night out, which is, story with Frank Vogel. He told them need a point guard. They said, nah, Bradley Beal's your point guard. And then they fired him. So obviously nobody wanted to listen to him. The Kings one, yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. DeRozan's a, good scorer. He will add something that Harrison Barnes couldn't, but defensively, you're going to have to take a hit there. Philly, we talked about with theirs, 3 really good players, but you have 2 of them injury issues. So, yeah, big threes can work. You kind of have to get the right combination, because also with the big 3, 1 or 2 of them will have to sacrifice. And you better make sure that you get a 3 together where one player is okay sacrificing something for the greater good. Because, 08, Pierce, Allen, and Garnett, they'll all tell you like Ray Allen took a step back in, his offensive repertoire to fit in with KG and Paul Pierce, and it worked out for them. So, with Sacramento, we know De'Aaron Fox can score, DeRozan can score, and Sabonis can, score in his own right. Which one of them takes a step back? Because Phoenix hasn't figured that out yet, and for Philly, we'll see.
Yeah, that's a great point about big threes too. They have to sacrifice, and like once they get like with ones that work, you get guys who have different yet complementing skill sets. You talked about Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. You have just a 3-point shooting threat in Ray Allen. Doesn't play defense all that great, but that's okay because you bring the defense with Kevin Garnett, and with Paul Pierce, you have a 2-way scorer. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. It's almost like you need a scorer, a shooter, like a floor spacer, and an anchor. And Miami had the luxury of prime LeBron, so you almost had 2 anchors out there with Bosh and LeBron, and they both could shoot. Wade might not have been able to shoot, but he was such a great slasher that him having okay 3-point shooting didn't really matter that much. But yeah, it's all about complement, fit, and sacrifice. And nobody's been able to put together a big 3 for a couple of years now that really has been able to do that. The last time we saw a big 3 that really pulled that off is the 2021 Bucks. Like, if we're talking about strictly big 3, we could talk the Celtics, but they just had a big 5. Their whole starting lineup was great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point I was going to say with the Celtics. If you kind of looked at it, it was seen as Tatum and Brown, and then it's easy to then fill in around them with a Derek White, a Drew Holiday, a Porzingis, who just wanted to get out of Washington and into a situation where there was playoff, at least was an actual achievement there. And yet Horford, who's just a guy that, is a pro's pro. So it's easy to fit those pieces around those two. But yeah, imagine if the Celtics tried to like shoehorn a Kevin Durant in with Tatum and Brown at the expense of a White and a Holiday. That team would look a lot different. So that's why it's kind of weird that some teams seem like they're trying to like replicate what the Celtics are doing, or to at least combat what the Celtics are doing. But you have a few teams that are trying to go kind of back in time, not even that far along, but like go back to when you had the big 3, and then the rest of your rotation, you just threw guys out there hoping a couple of them play well on a night-to-night basis. And that's kind of what these teams are doing. Because, I mean, we talked about it last year when Phoenix was trying to construct the team around the big 3 that they had. They just started bringing in random guys like Watanabe and all this kind of stuff. And we're like, okay, how's this all going to look on the court? And as we saw, it was a complete mess this past year. So for Phoenix, I mean, Phoenix is probably the same issue. For Philly, you have Paul George, you have Embiid, you have Maxey. I mean, you no longer have Tobias Harris. I mean, well, Tobias Harris was, yeah, but outside of those three, like who will be the consistent contributors in Philly? We're not sure.
I'll say shout out to Melton. Though I really, oh, that's right, Melton went to Golden State too, so they lost him. That's
Yep.
big. That's
Yeah.
big. Say, I'm trying to remember who else is on that Philly roster outside of like.
Yeah, I mean, I brought it up. I was about to look it up myself because, yeah, I'm kind of wondering too who else is still there. I mean, Key was still here. If Key is still in here, she probably would know.
Oh, Kelly. Okay, Kelly Oubre was
That's
the one.
Oubre. They brought back Oubre. Yeah.
Yeah. Overall, though, I knew I was forgetting a name. That was the name I was trying to think of because we talked Caleb Martin earlier. But
Mm-hmm.
I think their starting five is fine. The one X factor for Philly that I really like, but I want to see how he gets acquainted to the league is McCain. They just drafted him 16, and I think he can make a big impact right away. But it's going to be. I'm curious to see how he fits in, if he's able to slot in and start knocking down shots right away. If he is, it'll be another big piece for him. But rookies are tough to gauge when they first come into the league.
Yeah, that's definitely a big point there. I found a website where they're kind of keeping up with the Sixers roster. And they basically have 9 guys that are kind of locked in terms of a rotation, I guess. So we already know Embiid, George, Maxey, Oubre. You have Drummond, who they brought in, Eric Gordon, McCain. So those 3 guys are like your key contributors after the starting 5. Okay. I mean, we'll have to see what that looks like on a night-to-night basis. But, I mean, they have some guys there, but I don't know. They have some free agents still there, but, Kyle Lowry, like you want to bring him back at like 45 years old. Cam Payne, who, like, if anybody's seen me on shows here or on my channel, you already know how I feel about Cam Payne. I can't stand that guy. Robert Covington.
I wouldn't mind them bringing back Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry, at the end of the day, even if he plays 0 minutes, is just such a great veteran presence to have. And it always seems in the playoffs he finds the fountain of youth to at least hit like 3 threes randomly in a game and kind of help turn the tide. And he's always willing to do the dirty work, get on the floor, take charges, etc. So out of all those guys, I would not mind them bringing back Kyle Lowry. Robert Covington would be number 2 on my list, and Cam Payne distant third in guys to bring back out of those 3.
That's a fair point. All right, let's go on to Team USA. So those of you watching, or I guess if you're listening, I'll just let you know the Team USA roster. You got Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, who says he's the number 1 option. If you don't agree with that, he'll let you know. Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum. Fresh cut Jason Tatum. He's gone back to, I think it was early on look of just going short all over. But looking at this group, it's the ultimate all-star team. How would you construct your starting 5 with this group?
To me, that's
actually further than that, and tell me how your bench would lay out. You can do that as well. But start with the starting 5.
That's actually pretty easy.
Okay.
So let's start off with the obvious. Steph, KD, LeBron are not coming off the bench. We all know this. So if you want to be realistic, slot those 3 in for 3 slots right there. So the question is, how do you complement those 3? Those 3 guys are going to want a lot of touches on offense. And one thing you're sorely missing is a point of attack defender. And you need somebody who doesn't care if he's not really involved on the offense. So give me Drew Holiday for the other starting spot next to Steph Curry for point of attack defense, and just he can catch and shoot. Very intelligent cutter. So I got Steph, Drew, KD, LeBron, and at the center, I'm going to go Joel Embiid. I think Joel Embiid obviously gives you size, but not only that, and I think this is big, Joel Embiid's a better shooter from all three levels than Anthony Davis. So he's going to give you not only the best spacing, but he's going to give you the best rim protection. And when you have a setup like the Olympic basketball, remember, there's no defensive 3 seconds. If there's a non-shooter on the other team and I can just park Embiid in the paint, that will save a lot of points. So my starting five for Team USA, give me Steph, Drew, LeBron, KD, Joel Embiid.
Okay. I mean, I look, just picturing it, I see how it fits. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would tune into that first game, see Drew Holiday in the starting lineup, and they'd probably go, "What? Why Drew Holiday?" But like you said, you got Curry in the backcourt. Some of these international teams have really good guards. You would want a good defender there next to Curry to take that assignment. So I think that makes perfect sense.
I want to throw an Ant. I really do. But that interview turned me off from the idea because once again we were talking about sacrifice earlier, and it's clear as day that Ant's not ready to make that sacrifice. So I think you throw him on the second unit and you run Tyrese, Ant, Kawhi, Tatum, Anthony Davis. I think those are four other guys that would not mind deferring more to Ant. And I think that just works out perfectly. But Ant, people, if you want him in the starting lineup, that's why I don't have him there. I just don't think he's ready to sacrifice for the other guys.
Look, I thought that answer was just on brand for Anthony Edwards at this point. Like he went through all the playoffs carrying himself like he was the man. He was the face of the league and everything. So if he went to Team USA and they asked him about it, he was like, I just want to fit in. I'd be like, no, that's not what you want to say. Him saying that he's the number one option, I'm like, okay, that's Anthony Edwards. So my starting lineup is pretty much the same, except for I did go ahead and put Ant in there alongside Curry in the backcourt. I agree with you. There's no chance LeBron and KD are coming off the bench. And then I had Embiid as a starting center as well. I think my second unit was the exact same. Well, no, I had Halliburton, Kawhi, Tatum, and AD like you. And then for the second guard spot, I guess at that point you'd be looking at Holiday or Booker. And I went with Holiday because Booker will kind of be, because I guess it leaves Booker and Adebayo as your 11th and 12th man. And for Booker, he's a guy that you can use in a couple of spots, as well as Adebayo. And depending on, certain countries you face, obviously all these guys are going to play every game, but that's kind of how I laid it out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody's wondering why I just went with Hallie over Devin Booker, it's not that I think Tyrese Halliburton is better than Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker is actually much better than Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
However, once again, when you're playing with an all-star team, you need a point guard that's willing to distribute the ball and kind of take a step back. Halliburton in the playoffs, one of my biggest complaints was he took a step back, which obviously in that setting, I don't think that's what he should have done, but he made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, so it worked out.
Yeah.
But now when we're going to an Olympic setting, that's exactly what he needs to do. Just kind of step back, be willing to play off the ball, maybe score every once in a while when they ask him to, and just spread the ball around. And I think Halliburton fits that role better than Booker. Now, I obviously Booker, Adebayo, they're still going to play. I'm not saying cut them out of the rotation.
Exactly.
Give them the Christian Laettner minutes, but they're both going to play. But I think those will end up being the two most successful lineups for Team USA.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically agree, except for you have Holiday starting. I have Holiday in the second group. I have Ant starting. You have Ant in the second group. So, yeah, pretty much on the same line in there. I mean, obviously, it's going to be interesting to see Team USA out there playing, especially with Steph Curry being his first time in the Olympics, which is kind of crazy to think about. But, for him, this is going to be a big deal. For LeBron, you'd have to say would be the last Olympics. But then again, who knows? He may just keep doing 1+1 deals until he's like 50 years old, still pulling money from the Lakers. Like who knows at this point?
He's waiting for the next Olympics. He'll retire after he can play in a lineup with him, Bryce, and Bronny all in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I guess. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life right now, because then it'll just turn into, oh, the Jameses all on the team together, and they'll just be the whole story of the Olympics. And I don't. Yeah, I'm already brawnied out after just one summer league game.
That bothered me too, because I had to really soul search to find other guys who were doing great. Shout out to, once again, I said it before, I'll say it again. Shout out to Zach Edey. He was awesome. Mm-hmm. There's so many guys that did good. I don't need to hear about Bronny's 4 points. Like, did Bronny show some good things that could translate well to the NBA? Sure. But is that the only thing I need to hear about? Also, no, it's not.
Yeah. Especially when you had Dalton Connect, who was actually playing pretty well on the exact same summer league team. So it's Lakers world. I mean, those are all the topics I had. So I guess we can go with our little fun trivia, which I'll pull up here and get that going really quickly.
But is there any more of a fake outrage than Joel Embiid playing for Team USA at this point? That is the fakest freaking thing I've seen in forever. Like, this man has worked here his entire life. He has a kid here. At this point, he's probably spent more of his life in here than in freaking Cameroon. And no disrespect to Cameroon, but come on. This is like, if you're going to get upset about that, get heated about Jose Alvarado going to play for Puerto Rico. The man was born in Brooklyn. Last time I checked, Brooklyn wasn't in freaking Puerto Rico. Listen, if you're going to fake this freaking outrage for Joel Embiid, be consistent or just shut up about it. Pick one.
I agree. Yeah, when it gets down to the Olympics, we see this in every sport. Like every event, even if it's like track and field, you'll see Americans that probably couldn't make it on the American track team. They'll go to other countries like, Great Britain or whatever to be featured over there. Like it's a thing in the Olympics. It's not that big of a deal. People will be fine with it. Like, yeah, I agree with you. That the fake outrage is just nauseating at this point. Because we were talking about before we came on here, like the fake outrage with the WNBA that you see on a daily basis. Like, it is tiring what's going on in sports right now.
And to be clear, I don't care who you have for Rookie of the Year. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese both have great cases, but at least make a case for them that makes sense. I'm seeing like Angel Reese should win it because she has more offensive rebounds. Great, she has more offensive rebounds than a 6-foot guard, and I'll go, well, Caitlin Clark has more assists. Great, a 6-foot guard has more assists than the power forward. Like, I don't care who you have for the Women's Rookie of the Year. If you're going to make an argument, though, just make it make sense, please.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to try this here. Pull up hoop grids because, do something really quick here and then get out of here. I mean, last week we did this, and because the ads was running kind of slow, so we're still going to go down this lane again. But I will say there is a team that's involved in the hoop grid that's close to your heart. The Bucks are on it today. So I'm sure you'll be able to clean that column out. But we have the Bucks, Clippers, 5+ assists per game season, running along the top, and then along the left side, we have the Jazz, Kings, and the Spurs. So where would you like to start?
Bucks Kings is an easy one. Give me Jimmer Fredette.
Good old Jimmer. Oh, sorry, Bucks Kings. Is Jimmer still overseas?
He might be. I believe Jimmer was on the Kings. Like 90% sure he was for a bit. He wasn't.
I said no. I kind of thought he was too.
Was got another. Oh,
Maybe he was like just on a summer league. I don't know.
I really thought that he was on the Kings. Oh my goodness, I am rusty. Okay, let's see. The issue is I can name like really easy names for those, but of course I'm trying to dip back into really dip back, but maybe they have such weird teams though. Like Jazz Bucks, I think Ursan Ilyasova was on both teams.
I liked Ilyasova's game.
I loved Ursan. He just here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
4.3. Okay.
Bucks. I want to say either Cole Aldridge or Jason Smith was on both teams, but I can't remember which one. I always mix the two up somehow. I think it was Jason Smith played for us. We really going for that unicorn today.
Kings?
Yeah. I think Jason Smith played for both teams.
All right. Jason Smith. There we go. Nope.
All right, that's ridiculous, but no. What? Or did we have Cole Aldridge? It doesn't. I'm trying too hard. I'm trying too hard right now. I'm trying to think way back in the day. Okay, let's see. Other guys who played for us.
I'll try Cole Aldridge.
Yeah, I think he.
Nope.
Okay, let's go into even deeper because let's see who would play for us that just sounds like a Spur. Nate Walters played for us. He might have played for the Spurs.
Nate Walters, I remember him.
The point guard on my 15-win Bucks team. Just sounds like a Spur.
Nope.
Oh, I'm just cooked at this. Okay, okay, that's fine.
Hoopers is not your friend today.
No, I really thought some of these older guys played for each of these, but okay, did Jason Terry ever play for the Kings? I know they went through that stretch where they were bringing in really washed point guards.
I mean, Jason Terry is an interesting one. Nope. He did not.
Apparently, I'm just going to name every single wrong. I think Jabari Parker played for the Kings, though. So I got like a dearth of like random role players, and
yeah.
Let's see. Was he
3%?
I feel like the Buck. Oh, this is going to pain me to say, but did Rivas Vasquez play for the Spurs? I know he played for the Bucks. That name is cursed because we traded the pick. We traded the pick that was ended up being OG Anunoby to get Rivas Vasquez.
Nope.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
He did not.
Okay. Whew. Okay, Kyle Korver never played for the Spurs. Let's see. Trying to think of Bucks Spurs players. I don't think Joel Prisbilla ever played for the Spurs. I know we had him for a while. Did Dan Godzarich play for the Spurs? can think of the
I mean,
names,
Chris
but
Miller
I
and,
can't.
and God's Reach.
Did Dan God's reach? I don't think he did. Maybe Bucks legend.
I think out of the two of them, Prisbilla would seem like more of a spur
I'll
than
say
God's Reach.
either him or Brian Skinner they just sound like a spur. We can try Prisbilla.
Right? I mean, yeah.
Prisbilla will always have one of my
When it comes to
favorite.
Skinner, I just know him from the Clippers.
I'll say Prisbilla will always have one of my favorite nicknames of all time. It's tough to top the Vanilla Gorilla. That is just an all-time nickname. There he is.
Oh, I forgot the Z comes before the Y. Prisbilla. Okay. He did not.
Ooh, man, they're really. I feel like I'm a winner just because I can like name all these names, but I can't put them together with the Spurs. Okay, the easy answer. Okay, we'll go with the cop-out answer. Pau Gasol. I feel like everybody should know that. Maybe not a lot of people know that though, because a lot of people forget he was a Buck.
%.
All right. Jazz Clippers.
So you got the Bucks calm down.
All right. Jazz Clippers. Luke Mamute. I think he played for. I know Luke Mamute either played for the Jazz or the Kings. He was like the best Clippers small forward in that stretch of Lob City era. I think he played for the Kings.
I feel like I remember him with the Kings. Yeah.
I'm 90% sure, yeah. There he is.
Yep. 1.3. Okay.
Let's see. Jazz Clippers. Did Ryan Hollins play for the Jazz? I know he played for the Clippers, but I don't know if he played for the Jazz.
That's a good one. No, he did not. I know he played for the Kings. He would have worked there too. I don't think he played for the Spurs.
No, he didn't. Trying to think who else would work for the. Because of course I don't want to go anybody too obvious. Clippers did no. Clippers Jazz. I feel like there's got to be some obvious ones out there that I'm just like whiffing on hard. Let's see. Okay. I'm gonna go back to Clippers Jazz. We'll try Spurs Clippers. Let's see did Boris Diaw ever play for the Clippers? I don't think Boris ever played for the Clippers.
I thought he did.
Did he? Because then he would work for both spots. I know he played for the Suns. Yeah, okay, he didn't. That's fine. I think Austin Rivers played for the Jazz.
Oh.
No, he didn't. He really didn't.
Apparently did not.
Man, I'm just washed at Hoop Grid's confirmed. Guardy 3 Wash 2024. Oh man, no, because I keep thinking of names. I played for one, but not the other, and that's where this gets tough. Because let me try to think of Utah Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mike Conley didn't play for the Clippers. Nick Batum didn't play for the Jazz. Kevin Porter Jr. didn't play for the
I think I
Jazz.
just thought somebody.
No, if you have an answer, you can definitely throw some out there.
I think I just thought of somebody, and we talked about him earlier. I think Jeff Green made us on both of these teams.
Oh yeah, he definitely did. I have no clue how I overlooked Uncle Jeff. Yeah, no, he's for sure there.
Okay. Like Jeff Green's gonna become like the new Ish Smith. Oh,
Yeah.
24% got Jeff Green. Okay.
Okay, let's see. Let's think of some
Clippers
Spurs players.
Spurs though.
That was kind of tough. The obvious one's going to be Kawhi Leonard, but I'm trying to avoid Kawhi Leonard.
Right.
Uh,
Clippers and Spurs.
let's see. Who played? Trying to think of some older vets they had around. Like David West didn't play for the Clippers. Didn't they have Stephon Jackson? Did he play for the Clippers? I don't think he played for the Clippers. Maybe he did. I don't think he did.
Oh, Steven Jackson.
Yeah.
I think that might be a good one. Let's try it. I think he did. I think he did make a stop with the Clippers. I think that's a good one. He did?
Oh, look at that.
How does he not have a picture? That's kind of disrespectful.
Wow.
He doesn't have a picture.
All right. Yep. Okay, let's see. 5 assists a game per game a season. For the Spurs, give me Spurs legend Tracy McGrady. I feel like not a lot of people remember he played for the team for a year.
You would think that'd be a low number. Okay, 4%.
4%? Okay, that's actually a lot more than I thought. Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Sacramento Kings. I wonder if a lot of people remember that. Let's see. I think the easy answer is going to be Rondo. He obviously stopped there for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
Issue is I can't really think of another wash point guard that.
And now a lot of people remember that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Jazz.
I got the Jazz.
Let's see. I'm sure the most obvious answers are take your choice between D. Mitch, Mike Conley, or Darren Williams.
Mm-hmm. You want to go crazy? Well, not crazy, but I mean, didn't Rubio make a stop in Utah?
He did. He did.
Did Jamal Tinsley play in Utah?
I don't know if Jamal Tinsley played in Utah, but that'd be a great bowl. Let's try Jamal Tinsley.
I know we all know the Pacers, but for some reason I was picturing him in a Jazz uniform. He did. Okay.
You know what? I'll say that.
Yeah, the Tinsley, Utah years.
Yeah, no, I struggle with that a lot harder than I should have. But what's I'm guessing
Better than 67%.
Oh, look at that! Wonder what the popular ones are.
Let's see. I hate that this website runs so slow for me.
Kawhi.
Oh, Stockton, obviously. De'Aaron Fox, Tony Parker.
Mamu?
Sandro Mena.
That's the popular one?
Exactly. I would never have gone down that road.
I forgot Mamu went to the Spurs, but the popular on more people remember Mamu was a Spur than Pau Gasol. What in the world?
That is wild.
I'm dumbfounded by
that's
that.
The biggest surprise that's the biggest surprise out of all of them.
Yeah, because every other name makes a lot of sense. Then yeah, there's just Mamu.
Who knew? Okay, that was interesting. Right, take this off. I think it'll stop delaying my computer, but yeah. So look, that was another fun trivia. We went with hoop grids, only because it slows down everything when I pull it up. I'll come up with some other game for us to do next week. Maybe another fantasy draft. I don't know. I'll have to think of a good category. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of all we have for On the Ball, unless there's anything you want to add before we get out of here, Brett.
No, I had a lot of fun. It was a great time, talking sports today.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. Look, by the time we come back next week, I believe College Football 25 will be early access for some people. So, I mean, that's a game that you and I are both waiting for, as well as Dylan, big college football fans. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that game is received come next week. We also will, we'll be a week closer to the Olympics, so might hear some more stuff with Team USA. NBA free agency, like we said, is pretty much done at this point. So I feel like next week we might start transitioning to NFL, looking ahead to the next season. Maybe go with some early predictions. I don't know. We'll kind of figure out. But next week we'll have some NFL flair to it for sure. But for those of you who did tune in, appreciate you all for checking us out. Make sure you go ahead and like the video, subscribe, follow Integrity Sports Network. We have some shows on here. We have some shows that will be coming along the line, especially for NFL season. So make sure you all are get on board early. Look, we have some, like I said, good shows, good people, and I'm sure you all enjoy it. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here because, like I said, I feel like my computer is lagging all of a sudden, so don't want to subject you all to that for too much longer. So appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you come back next week for On the Ball around 7:00 for another installment. So for myself and Brett, Dylan, who normally the third guy, he was in the chat, so he was a part of the show without being on camera. So yeah, for all of us, appreciate you all. Enjoy the rest of your night. We will see you next week. We are out of here.